What is imagination? It's the ability to think of things as if they could be otherwise. It's to ask what if. It's to look at things in new ways by using your sensory receptors, your perceptual capabilities in new ways.
I think imagination is the place where all the innovation, everything, it starts from the imagination. This is the place where all the magic happens. Like whatever you think, if your mind can conceive it, you can actually do it.
Let us think from our hearts, let us imagine, and let's have a fascinating conversation and use this to create an action that is much needed on climate.
I urge everyone to leave our differences behind, our nationalities, our religions, our ethnicities, and to bring our creativity and innovation, innovative thinking to the table. What we need is to really go beyond that box of policy and think of those solutions that haven't been heard here.
The goal remains to talk about imagination as it relates to human development, as it relates to topical issues or existential issues like climate change.
Without imagination, we wouldn't have created the world that we have. If we look at the word itself, it's the world of images, it's the world of pictures, it's the world of our minds. So we are creating every day.
And I guess the importance of creativity and making a difference, making an impact, especially with the SDGs. Creativity is mandatory when you're working with diverse cultures and, really trying to meet them where they are, change their lives, and being able to let them feel hope. And I do that through pictures, and I do that through using my voice and, making things inspiring.
The smartest cities are those where creativity is what you would call bounces off each other faster than others. So when you create hubs where creativity gather, can talk about new ideas, then the more that you create these hubs, the faster is the economic and of course the intellectual center. So you're more competitive against others. Now,
what triggers my imagination? And as soon as I was able to formulate that question directly on point to visual images were just overflooding me. Again, tapping into what I think is my imagination, all these things that are challenging it right now that I can apply myself to imaginatively.
My work has looked pedagogically at how do we teach in ways that develop the imagination, how we bring imagination in a very practical and pragmatic way into conversations around school leadership, so that we can transform schools and communities. The educational system is a huge place for change and also a huge place of resistance to change.
When we look, at the top schools, on the one hand, they promote creativity and imagination, but underneath many of these concepts, essentially everyone are looking to train people to be more productive. And to some extent, there is a feeling, at least my sense, that imagination is wrongly, very often is being perceived as counterproductive instead of something that increases productivity in the long run.
To use spirituality as a technique to access the right hemisphere and use spiritual techniques such as meditation, and I include art as a spiritual technique or a spiritual practice, to access your imagination and expand it, to look at all practices, including nature, that can expand our right hemisphere thinking.
Where we try to provide, an ecosystem of nature and free play for underserved communities. And if you don't have those spaces, how can your cells even grow and create? But the freedom to be able to sort of wander and commune, and not even just commune with the green space, but to commune with the community that is also attracted to those spaces.
The way we've actually created the entire education system, there's a term for it that Ken Robinson's used, industrialized education, because it is set today to mimic the Industrial Revolution, where we beat all sense of imagination and creativity out of it. It takes away the science of learning. I'm going to say the science of learning, and then the art of teaching. But by the time the kids go through this whole system, which we call education, their learning agility is shot to pieces, and the ability to stand out as individuals is non-existent. And actually, which is, if you left nature to its own, it would actually know how to rejuvenate itself. And it's almost as if to say, if you left kids to their own, they are natural learners as they would be as adults if you actually left them to themselves. And I think we actually need to recreate those ecosystems to flourish.
If imagination for me is the plant that I'm growing in my soil, then how do I nurture my soil? It comes when there's a lot of space. It comes when there's a lot of relaxation. It comes when it's in its natural state. So what is that natural state, and how do we work with it? Is value the margins. And friction is the margin. And if we value the margins, then quite often it's where the beauty comes from.
So I do think that even facing like different challenges can be a catalyst for your imagination to think beyond what's right in front of you. And that's why bringing in other people who are closer to where your imagination wants to go sometimes also helps you actually achieve what that is that's in your imagination.
And some of the things I think that are hurting our kids today and imagination is the way parenting has become such a there's so much of this helicopter parenting. A lot of parents are so on their children. Teaching how to parent in the right way is such a huge part of solving this problem. And then, of course, the teachers and the schools and the mentors. I think children want to be seen and heard. That's the basic first thing. I think they want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to feel loved. They want to feel secure.
You know, what would it look like if you put 8 different personalities in a room, and if you just encourage an idea to mutate, what would that mutation look like?
How do we really stretch ourselves to use our imagination, not when we have freedom and we feel safe, but when we're scared and things are uncomfortable? And I think that's when imagination is so...
Imagination is also thinking beyond language itself. That is why learning language is such a transformative force in your life, because it just fundamentally change your association with things, and then you are like forced to recognize and pay attention to the little things that become very automatic for you.
If we want to set the space for imagination, like how can we create then these authentic, honest conversations without destroying hope for them? The challenge of using imagination to articulate new narratives for hope and for a basic demand of our rights. Like how can we ignite that hope also without ignoring, what is happening in front of our faces, and having these conversations with youth